want to go to Bryn Gingras. She's outside the courthouse in New York. Trump took the stand today, and I take it, Bryn, he just made a statement. Is that right?
Yeah, he actually just stormed out of the courtroom, Wolf. Now, I'm still trying to decipher from my colleagues who are sitting inside that courtroom exactly what caused this. But what I do know is that Michael Cohen is on the stand. He is going through cross-examination by Trump's attorneys at this point. And according to my colleagues, I believe there has been a little bit of flip-flopping when it comes to 2019 congressional testimony that Michael Cohen gave to lawmakers concerning him manipulating financial statements for Trump. Now, the entire cross-examination, Trump's attorneys have been trying to catch Michael Cohen in a lie. And it appears, again, that there has been some sort of flip-flopping that has angered Donald Trump, making him throw up his hands and storm out of the courtroom. And then he gave a statement. So let's listen to this.
The witness just that we won the trial, and the judge should end this trial immediately. Thank you.
So my colleague, and I'm going to read it word from word again, I'm getting this from inside the courtroom. The 2019 testimony that's being questioned right now of Michael Cohen, he said that he stands by when he said to lawmakers, did Mr. Trump direct you or Mr. Weisselberg to inflate numbers for his personal statement? Not that I recall, no. Now, just yesterday, the direct questioning by the New York Attorney General's office of Michael Cohen was all about fudging those financial statements to the benefit of Donald Trump while he worked for him. So again, this is what the cross-examination is doing. They're trying to catch him in a lie. It appears it's very possible that he did. And so the president is angry about this and wants the trial to essentially end. That's what his lawyers are arguing for with this judge. So again, we're still trying to get this information, but it does look like there is some flip-flopping going on that has angered the president, and he has stormed out of the courtroom making that statement. Now, how the judge is ruling on this, we're still trying to figure that out. But Michael Cohen is still on the stand being cross-examined at this moment, and the former president is no longer in that courtroom. Wolf?
Interesting indeed. Ellie Honig is with us as well. Ellie, give us your legal analysis of these dramatic developments unfolding in New York today, including a $10,000 second fine of Trump violating the so-called gag order by this judge.
Well, first of all, with respect to the statement that Bryn just played that Donald Trump made outside the courthouse that we just won this trial, that is false. He has not won this trial. To the contrary, the judge already has ruled against Donald Trump before the trial on one of the counts in this lawsuit. So Donald Trump has not won this trial. It seems like what he's saying is, I'm pleased that my attorneys just did a good job on cross-examination of Michael Cohen, and I'm confident we will win. That remains to be seen. To be sure, his lawyers have been aggressively cross-examining Michael Cohen and exposing certain inconsistencies and certain biases on Michael Cohen's behalf. But that doesn't mean Donald Trump wins the trial. The verdict will be up to the judge, considering the weight of all the testimony. And Wolf, as to the other point about the gag order, so this was really an unusual event here. The judge had issued a gag order about 3 weeks ago after Donald Trump posted some inflammatory comments about the judge's clerk. And the judge issued a very narrow gag order. It said, you cannot talk about my staff. Well, today, Donald Trump said, or just yesterday, he said critical things about the person sitting to the judge's right. And so the judge said, well, I think you mean my clerk there. That violates my gag order. Trump said, no, I meant Michael Cohen, the witness, who's on the other side of the judge. And so the judge ordered Donald Trump to take the stand a few minutes ago. Donald Trump took the stand and said, I meant Michael Cohen. And the judge said, I don't believe you. I find you non-credible. Therefore, the judge imposed what is now a second fine on Donald Trump for violating the gag order.
Yeah, we'll see if there are more fines or even more severe punishment if Trump, according to the judge, continues to violate this so-called gag order. Kristen Holmes is watching all of this unfold as well. What are you learning, Kristen?
Yeah, Kristen, Wolf, when we talk about Donald Trump's strategy, there's so much there that is based in trying this in the court of public opinion, not in the court of law. And that requires Donald Trump to get out there and take control of the narrative, to put his spin on it, to essentially go out and attack different members, whether it's the clerk, whether it's the judge, whether it's to say that this is election interference, despite whatever evidence they have. This gag order is going to severely limit that. And that is why it is a huge question mark whether or not he can actually abide by it. Also, the other thing to keep in mind here is that he is somebody who just says whatever is on his mind. We saw last night, after this report came out about Mark Meadows, that he started spewing out on his social media page about Meadows, saying he wasn't sure he was that kind of guy who would take an immunity deal, then saying he didn't believe it. It was very clear he was spun up. What does Donald Trump do when he is spun up? He talks and talks. And oftentimes he doesn't control his messaging. And that is the hardest part for his campaign and the hardest part for his lawyers. The campaign doesn't mind if he's out there attacking people, but they do mind if he's out there saying things that he shouldn't be saying. And that's exactly what you saw here today. And in some ways, when you talk to these people who are close to him, he just can't help himself. So whether or not he can actually abide by this gag order, that remains to be seen, but it seems increasingly unlikely, particularly as we know when he is in this case in particular in New York, he is spun up. He is anxious. He is annoyed. This is something that bothers him very deeply to his core because it's about him personally and about his business. So when you take all that into consideration, it seems unlikely that he'll be able to do that.